go. Woo! Welcome, 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 everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. This is our first program, Success Talk with Deborah Sharif. Thanks so much again for joining us. And I am so excited that I have not only a brilliant author, but also a friend and a colleague. And I want to welcome you, Priscilla, to Success Talk. Thanks so much for being my first guest. I'm so
Well,
excited.
thank you for inviting me. I'm excited too because I've never been on this platform before, so I'm really happy to see you. I haven't seen you in a while, and
Yes,
you look well,
you
and
too.
thank you. And so I'm happy. I'm excited to be here, and let's go.
Well, let me
Let's
just
go.
let the folks on our platform know who you are. So I'm just going to
Mhm.
give a background, and then we're going to get into your wonderful book. Priscilla Flint Banks was born and raised in Roxbury, Massachusetts. She was educated in the Boston public school system and attended Cambridge College, where she received her master's degree in education. Her career started in finance, and she worked for several banks in the Boston area. Priscilla is the co founder and former program director of the Black Economic Justice Institute, which affectionately is called BJ. This organization advocates and develops programs that address justice and economic opportunities for Blacks and other people of color in Boston, Massachusetts. Priscilla was also the convener for the Black Boston Coalition. She also is a board member of the Economic Council, which is called BCAM. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly,
Beckma,
Priscilla. BECMA.
Beckma.
Thank
Hmm.
you for that correction.
Hmm.
Where she headed up the job committee. In 2019, she ran for city council. I voted for you. Okay, just want to put it out there. Raising issues and concerns around gentrification, good jobs, procurement, homelessness, and education. And those are all concerns that many Black people have across the nation. Priscilla, on a sad note, Priscilla lost both of her sons, her 4-year-old son in a fire, and her 7-year-old in a car accident. And I know it was many years ago, but still, my condolences, Priscilla.
Thank you.
That's really hard.
Yeah.
Priscilla was in and out of mental institutions from 1976 and 1980. Thanks for sharing that because there are so many people that are suffering from mental illness that don't want to admit it. But
Right.
let me say this next sentence. She was also called crazy, manic depressive, and bipolar. She overcame all those negative titles and is now a well respected leader in the Boston community. I can vouch for that. As a licensed minister, Priscilla is an active member of Global Ministries Christian Church in Dorchester, Massachusetts, where she sings. I didn't know you sang, girl. Praise and worship. I'd love to hear you sing. Also, her prayer ministry got her to for First Fruits, which has over 30 participants every Sunday and Saturday. Somewhere along the line, now this is interesting, she found time to author her book entitled I Look Back and Wonder How I Got Over, which is a compelling story of her life. And it was read by former First Lady Michelle Obama, who she hopes to meet one day. Miss Obama, Mrs. Obama wrote Priscilla a letter congratulating her on writing the book and encouraged her to write more. Priscilla has a radio broadcast. Okay, on Boston Praise Radio TV network. And let me say when it is. It's on Thursday morning. And I know that it's shown on social media, correct?
Yes, we're on like 31 platforms. So we're
Wow.
on Facebook, YouTube, TuneIn, Shoutcat. We're on local TV, Apple TV. And of course, Boston Praise Radio TV.co. So,
Wow.
yeah, we're doing some great things at the radio station.
Now
And
tell
now,
me, because I have it here in your bio, but tell me exactly when, if people want to tune in on social media to hear your radio broadcast.
So it's on every Thursday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern time, and it goes from 9 to 10. And it could be found on Pastor Bruce Wall's Facebook page. It could be found, like I said, on YouTube. The name of my show is People Power with Priscilla, because I believe that we are the people and we have the power. And
All
so,
right. I
yeah.
love it. And before we get into the book, she currently resides in Rosendale, Mass, and wants to retire for real. Don't we all? But says she has too much work to do. I can relate. And
Yeah.
she also mentions that she has more books in her head that she is interested in writing. So let's get right to it. Let me just show the cover for folks for it, and we're going to show you how you can actually see this particular book. I look back and wonder how I got over. Girlfriend, please, what was the inspiration? And how did you get that book out of your head and on paper into the stores and Amazon?
I basically, I remember when I was little, I used to say things like, I'm going to write a book one day. And I was raised by my aunt, but I didn't know she was my aunt. And I said, one of these days, I'm going to go live with my real mother and family. And those things, it happened. And my book, at the time, when you're young, you say, oh, I'm going to write a book. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. But then as I start going through life, and I start getting slammed this way and slammed that way. I'm like, Lord, help. And it wasn't until I lost my second son back in 19, I lost my second son August 13th, 1990. And May 2nd, 1991, I gave my life to Christ. A friend of mine's witnessed to me and told me, about God and how she had changed her life and how he had changed her life. And at that time, I was suicidal. I didn't want to live anymore. I was just so depressed because that was my second son, it was my second marriage, and I was just going through a whole lot. But after I went to church and found Christ, my whole life changed. I mean, I still went through a lot, trust me, but
Mm-hmm.
I just basically, just tried to live a good life, try to help people when I could. I was able to bring my family members to church, my mom, my sisters, my brothers. I was trying to save everybody,
Mm-hmm.
One of my sisters said, so I don't need to be saved. I'm already saved. I got a church. I'm like, okay, whatever, but it was just my life journey. I felt like I lost my first son when I was 19 years old, and I had just got married. And I wound up moving to Anchorage, Alaska with my first husband, and it was crazy. Um, I was happy to be there in Anchorage, Alaska, because I had never been there before, and I learned a lot while I was there. But like they say, there's no place like home. And so I came back after a year in Alaska, and I came back to just a lot of turmoil. It was 1976, and things were happening in Boston. That's the year that they stabbed Ted Lansmock with tried to stab him with a flag in City Hall Plaza. That was the busing era, and there was just so many things going on. And I always worked all my life. I've been working since I was 13 years old, and I always, had a job or could get a job. And when I came back, it was kind of hard for me to find a job, and I was still young too. And so hadn't really built a real resume. My first job was actually my first real job was me and my mother used to clean the Statler Hilton Hotel at night from 12 to 5 a.m.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and then I got a job at Advent building speakers. So I was working there when my first son passed away. But I had went it was in me always to write a book. And one year, I used to always have a hard time with Mother's Day. Mother's Day it's still difficult for me. But in 2005, I said I'm going to take a trip. I'm going to go see my niece who lives in Minnesota,
Mm-hmm.
and I went to see her, and I was telling her, a little bit about the book, what I was going to write, because I wrote my book from memory. I didn't have not one note. I wrote it all from
Oh
memory.
my goodness.
And she worked at University of Minnesota, so I would go to work with her, and that's where I actually started writing my book. And but it was I didn't get it published until 2010 because when I would come to the part like about my son, I'd put it down for a month or two, because it was just because I had to relive it. When you write about yourself, you have to relive the experience, and it was just so difficult. And then I would start talking to somebody, and they'd be like, "So when you gonna finish your book?" I'd be like, "Oh yeah," and then I would pick it up. But 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 I talked about it a lot, But I finally published it in September of 2010.
Mm-hmm.
And my first book signing was at my church, Kingdom Builders. My
Oh,
bishop at the
wow.
time, Bishop Robert Perry, he did an interview with me, and it was so nice. I invited my family and my friends, and he's like, "Priscilla, this is a preamble for the Oprah Winfrey Show," and so, and
No, the
so,
Deborah Sharif show.
yeah, I know, right? Yeah, it was good. He read some of the stuff from the book, and people were like, "What?" Because by this time I was, I knew God. A lot of things I had been doing, I didn't do them anymore. And
Hmm.
so I worked in the church. I always worked in my church, whatever church I was at. I always did something.
Hmm.
And so and actually I don't know. You remember Pam Ogletree? Professor
You know,
Ogletree's wife, Charles
I do.
Ogletree from
Wasn't she
Harvard.
at the Roxbury Children's?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Children's
I
Services of
knew of
Roxbury. Yes,
her because I did teach a course over there for the teenagers.
right. Well,
Okay.
I met her when I helped co-found Mothers for Justice and Equality, and so I invited all the board members to my book signing, and
Hmm.
she came and purchased 30 books from me.
Oh,
You know,
wow. Wow.
and then
Talk
then she
about
said,
support. Wow.
yes,
That
yes,
was
and
awesome.
she said, Priscilla, she said, I read your book. She said, and she said it was so compelling. She said because you were so honest, because I was like, when I decided to write it, I had went down to the Cape. That's what I was saying about Mother's Day. I had went
Hmm.
down the Cape by myself, and there was like 4 or 5 questions I just wrote down that I wanted to ask God, and one of them was, should I write a book? And the
Hmm.
spirit was like, yes. I'm like, do I have to tell everything? And the spirit was like, yes. Because I mean, the book will make you laugh, but it also make you cry.
Yeah, Priscilla, I don't mean to stop you, but I just want to mention that when someone actually picks up this book, I look
Hmm.
back and wonder how I got over. It was such an inspiration. I don't think I ever told you this, and here I am telling you to millions of people, right, on social media. But it inspired me to write my life because we don't
Mm,
have to be entertainers or dancers or any of that to
hmm.
actually document sisters who were born in our era. Even
Right,
though I'm a
right.
little older than you, but
Hmm.
still, I mean, some of the challenges that you had and some of the
Yeah.
things that you did, it's just, like I said, my favorite scene was when you went to Alaska. I don't want to give away anything, but when you went
Hmm.
to Alaska and then when you went, and I won't even say what it is, but it was very comical because I really want folks to get out there and read this book. And I did in the chat put the link to your book
Hmm.
on Amazon.com.
Hmm.
And I'm hoping it gets to folks. And right now, this is our first launch, and I'm looking on Facebook to make sure that we're on. So if we
Hmm.
are, if somebody is tuning in, if you can just kind of give us a chat or give us a shout out just to let us know that you are listening, that would be really awesome. And if you have any questions for Priscilla, one of the things that I think people can learn from is your story. And what was your process for writing? You said that you didn't, kind of write notes or anything. You just wrote it out. But most people, sometimes that doesn't happen. But what was the strategy that you used? I mean, it was memory, you just sat down at one sitting, or how long did it actually take you to write?
It took me 4 years to write it because I started in 2005 in Minnesota, and like I said, I'd get to a certain point and I would stop.
Right, right.
And then I had to. So after I finished writing it, I had to get it proofread, edited. There was a lot of things that I didn't even know. Like I didn't know about having a budget for marketing. That's been my downfall, marketing it,
Correct.
But I just, there was a lot of things that came up, just different things that happened in my life that I had
Hmm.
to kind of like stop and take a break. But when I finished it in 2009, then I found an editor, and
Hmm.
she had never edited a book before, and I had never written a book before. So it took us a year to edit the book because we kept
Wow.
going all the way back. But it was a process, but I was glad I went through it. And then I would say stuff like, boy, I hope when people read my book I still have some friends left, because there's some things.
That's what you know what I was thinking about that when I was writing down some of the notes because my youngest daughter is helping me with writing my memoirs or my book. And so I
Uh-huh.
said, oh wow, I wonder, wait a minute, this person's still alive. I better be careful what I say.
Right. Well, you
So
know what I did for people who were still alive and I couldn't find them, I just changed their name. And
mm,
I noted that, I used their first and last initial, but I
hmm,
changed their name completely. So people
okay,
wouldn't, yeah,
okay.
because I couldn't
That's
find the
smart.
people,
Mhm.
because I was reaching out to people to have them sign it so that they could be in it, their real name. I even
Right.
had my family, I even had my brothers and sisters sign it. sign
Wow.
it. Yes, because I'm like, y'all ain't gonna get mad with me and sue me. But I mean, it's not it's true, but sometimes people, but everybody, my family, they agreed. The only person that I didn't have sign it was my mom, because I knew my mom would not, try to sue me. But yeah.
I'm up here
So
making sure that we're actually on because even if we have
mhm.
to repeat this, but I'm looking for us on Facebook. Again, if anybody is just joining us, we just would love for you just to say something in the chat just to know that we are live on Facebook. I am here with Priscilla Flint, and as you can see on the screen, I look back and wonder how I got over. So, a couple of things that I wanted to say to you, Priscilla, about this book. When you start to sort of write, some people say it's therapeutic when you write.
Mm, yeah.
When you actually kind of, just wrote down, because I got to know you much better after I wrote the book. And I have to admit that several years ago I went to a women's conference, and there was a young woman there, and she had a hard copy book, and it was like 25 bucks or something. And I said, let me support the sister. And she looked kind of intelligent. When I got the book home, I couldn't believe what I was reading. It was
Well,
absolutely horrible. It was like, no, it was. And I'm not going to say the name. I don't even remember the name. That was the
right.
only book I took out of my library and got rid of it. My point is, when I was introduced to you,
Hmm.
and by a mutual friend that we have. And
Hmm.
he said, oh, you got to read this book. You got to read this book. I started like, uh-oh, here we go.
Not again, right?
Here we go again with a book. And so, but I promise when I met you, I keep my word. And
Hmm.
when I met you, I said, I'm going to read it. And I'll never forget, it was a rainy night. And I sat down, had the book in front of me, read the first page. That was it. It was a page turner. I read your book in one sitting. And I have to say, it touched me in so many different ways. It touched me the way that how you handle each situation. You were so authentic. Every level and stage that you were at in your life, you were authentic with it. Whether you were, having a bad day and you went and took charge, and I have to say this, of a ambulance, and whatever. I mean, you had me laughing and crying, and really re-examining me.
Mm.
So I want you to speak to folks who are listening, because we still have about 15 minutes, and I also want to take a short break, but just share with them how you got to the comedic part, and how did you make a reader laugh and cry and smile and get mad at how did you do?
I just told my story, and it's amazing because a lot of time people are now doing a lot of things through storytelling, and it helped me. It really did because I suffer from depression, and that's why I like to laugh a lot because
Mm-hmm.
I go through things, like I just went through some things just recently in my life,
Mm-hmm.
and it gets depressed. And so, but I cry, I pray, I cry, but I just feel like it was a need. There was a need for me to write my book. I mean, people will come to me and say, "Oh my goodness, Priscilla, you've been through a lot of things that I went through," and I knew that some of the situations that I was in, I knew other women had been through it. I knew it, and so I just basically told the truth, poured my heart out, and basically tried to do the best that I could to encourage somebody, you know, to encourage a young person. I know a friend of mine let her 13-year-old daughter read my book, and so um, I'm thankful and grateful to God that He gave me the strength and the mind to write the book. And I think if I had to do it over again, I would write it again, because a lot of people said, Priscilla, your book really helped me because at the end of each chapter, I had a scripture and a lesson learned, like this is what I learned from, this experience that I went through, and
Mm-hmm.
so it was only God's grace and mercy brought me
Ex-
through.
exactly. And I have to say this, we are about, by the way, live streaming on Facebook. So thanks.
Hmm.
Yeah. So so I'm just hopeful that, I mean, if we don't get anybody to chat on the line, and I'm hoping I'm using all these bells and whistles with this streaming live format. I hope I'm using it right, but I'm looking at just in case anyone has any questions. And if you do have any questions, please put them in the chat, and I'll be more than happy to read them to Priscilla. Priscilla, I am so excited that not only did you write the book, and you wrote it many years ago, and now you have more books in you. But this book is actually going to be made into a movie. Tell us about that. And I know
So,
authors are saying, "Uh-oh, I want to get my book made into a movie too."
well, a certain friend of mine was supposed to do the screenplay, but she up and left the state. So I was talking to my niece. My niece is a producer, a film producer,
Mm-hmm.
and she's written like short stories.
Mm-hmm.
And she said after she read my book, she said, "Aunt Priscilla, we need to do a movie, and we
Yes.
need to start off with the ambulance scene." That's all I'm going to say about that. And that is exactly what she's doing. She's written the the screenplay is almost done. I think she's about done with it. She's doing some other projects in Boston now. She was living in Brooklyn. Her name is
Mm-hmm.
Dominga Martin, and
Okay.
she is working on some other projects. But I believe the screenplay is just about done. And so we would have conversations, and a lot of it, like back in the 70s and the 80s. My favorite music era is the 60s and the 70s.
Oh yeah.
And then, there would be something like, and music was playing, and she'd be like, Aunt
Mhm.
Priscilla, what song was that? I'd be like, oh, that was A Place in the Sun by Stevie Wonder. But it was fun, like going over some of it, and laughing. And she'd be like, I didn't know that, and I didn't
Yeah.
know that, and so a lot of things like we went through, I went through, my family went through, that people
Mhm.
nobody, would know about it. Like I had a real tragic tragedy in my family
Oh
where
wow.
my stepfather, one Thanksgiving, he murdered two people. He shot my mom, shot another lady, and this was Thanksgiving, and I was only like 15 years old or 14 years old. So that was traumatizing to me, and a lot of things that we didn't have a word for it, but it was trauma, and it it was really a sad time, and I was a young girl, I didn't really know a lot about anything. I had just moved in with my real parents like 2 years before it happened, so but God gave me the strength to get through everything, and like I said, I'm having a hard time now. That's why I gotta write another book. But I'm just thankful and I'm grateful, because I know that God loves me. I know that He's real, and I know that He has a plan and a purpose for my life. And I may not have even gotten to it yet. I mean, when I wrote my book, I was like, oh my goodness. But whenever Michelle Obama wrote me a letter, oh,
Oh,
I
that's wow, that would have made my year, not
yeah,
my day,
yeah,
but my year. And
definitely.
just tell people, because we are getting into, I know that you're on the East Coast, I'm on the West Coast.
Right.
It's probably 6:25 there. How can people get a hold of you? Um, do you have,
So
is there, maybe I can write something, or
so
can
if
you
people want to reach
give
me,
them your email address
yep,
if
it's
you want the
P
public?
Flint 1223 at gmail.com, or they could call me at 617 515
Wait a minute, I'm going to put this in the thing. 617.
515
Mm-hmm.
6908.
6908. Okay, let me just show this now. Told you I'm just learning how to. Oh, I just erased it by mistake. Okay, 617
515
515.
6908.
Oh wow, I got it right here. Oh, it never went away. Oh, this is awesome. Oh, check it out. I love
See
it.
all that the B&N training, how it comes in handy, right?
There it is. So you see it,
Yeah,
617 515 six
six
nine
nine.
zero eight. Okay,
Yeah.
since I'm doing that, then let's see. I'll keep that there for a moment.
Mhm.
So tell me let me have your email address. Wait a minute. Let me hide this and let me edit. Uh-oh. Go girl. Go girl. Okay, email address.
P Flint FLINT 1223 at gmail.com.
Awesome. And we can repeat it. And if
Mm-hmm.
they have an interest, let me save it and let me show it. So there it is,
Yep.
P
Yep.
Flint 1223 at gmail.com. Am I good? Am I good? Am I what?
You good,
Wow.
Debbie. You good.
Because I have you. I have you. At some point, I wanted to plan a larger authors forum because I
Mhm.
have 9 other authors that are coming on the show.
Wow,
And,
that's great.
yeah, and
Hmm.
at different times, on Tuesdays,
Hmm.
Thursdays. And
Hmm.
at some point, I would love for you, if, and I'm saying this isn't that awful, I'm saying on social media, that I probably would need a co-host, and
Hmm.
I would love to have you if we can work out a schedule, because I know you're just as busy as I am. I get
Right, right,
that. I
right. Well, I
definitely
would
get
love to
that.
do that. I would love to do
Oh,
that.
that'd be awesome.
We had actually started something. Me, my cousin Susan, and Eric Hall. We had started band Black Authors Network,
Hmm.
and there is one actually on Facebook. There's a Black Authors Network on Facebook, and
Oh, okay.
we had just we were going to start it for the Boston. We had what we had started doing was having speakers come to we're doing it at the Croc Center. So we
Hmm.
had vendors and people who were interested in becoming authors, and
Hmm.
what was the process, like how did you get your book published, what did you have to go through, those type
Hmm.
of things. We had people like Terry Williams from One United Bank. She was one of our
Oh,
guests.
wow.
We
Nice.
had Montero Bino, who's a pastor out in Randolph. He was one of our guests. But
Hmm.
because we were all so busy, we couldn't hold it together. So, but I'm glad to see that there is a Black Authors Network on Facebook. I believe I joined it because we have a
Hmm.
lot of stories, to tell.
Absolutely.
And it's sad, that some of us we leave here and we haven't written anything. or lessen the
Exactly.
instructions for our people, our young folks.
Absolutely. I'm just going to take a short break here, and stay with me before we close. I think we still have about 10 minutes, but I also
Mhm.
want to, I got to have a shout out to my sponsors,
Mhm.
the ones who have helped me to finance this particular show. And
Mhm.
let me get it up here on the screen. And I want to thank everybody who's streaming live. This is my first show. So if I make any mistakes, don't be putting it in the comments, okay? So I just want to share this particular sponsored by the Grandpups Young Readers Series. And it's a
Oh, okay.
storybook. Yeah, it's a
Mhm.
storybook and a curriculum that has over 50 lesson plans. And it also
Wow.
has a parent's key. This was
Wow.
specifically actually created for the after school programs and for parents. And so, if
Mhm.
you are interested, again, it's the Grandpups Young Reader Series, and you can get a hold of me as well, and I'll put my email account so that you'll have an understanding. But it's a great great book for for students, and one
Mhm.
of the reasons I'm so excited about this particular book uh, is because we know that Black history is sort of like forbidden in public education. They have it during February, but
Yeah.
all we do is hear
Shortest
about
month
the
of the
regular
year.
folks. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it's important that our students hear more. We love Dr. King, we love Malcolm X, we love Harriet Tubman, but there is so much more to Black
Right.
history, and I
Exactly.
think we shouldn't limit our children's minds. So
That's right.
again, and I will put. Let me see. I hope I get this one up as well. I'm looking through it all, but you can keep talking.
Mhm.
Priscilla, and talk about your process and talk about what's next for you and maybe some of the other projects that you're doing that
Mhm.
aside from the book, if you want to share that information.
Well, I have started a consulting firm. Me and one of my
Wow.
close friends, Makia Baker Gomez, who's been running campaigns for like I'd say at least the last 45 years. I've only
Mm-hmm.
been doing them from about 30 something, but we decided, that our young folks need to be educated about this process and they need to get involved. And so we're going to be working with our young people, getting them involved in different political activities, partisan and nonpartisan. And
Mm-hmm.
so, I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to our first client, and I'm just excited because I don't know, I got the fever around politics. I love it. Even though sometimes I think we as black people don't get a fair deal.
Mm-hmm.
It's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of you know back and forth. You got to raise all this money. If you don't have the money, you can't pay your people, and
That's right.
a lot of people don't want to do no volunteer work no more. Back in the day when I was, organizing and helping with campaigns, I didn't even know we could get paid for it. And so people be just like, well, can you help me with this? Can And so, and I
Mm-hmm.
just got the fever. Plus, I worked in City Hall for over 20
Mm-hmm.
years, and
Right.
that in itself was crazy. But I worked in the Treasury Department, so I ran the
Mm-hmm.
payroll. But it just goes to show, if you put your mind and soul and heart into something, God will make it flourish for you. And that's why I'm so glad, that you called me and asked me to be on your first show. So that really, that really makes me feel good. I really
Absolutely.
appreciate it. Yes.
Absolutely, absolutely. Priscilla, you're one of my favorite persons back in Boston, and one of the authentic ones. And I just wish you so much luck with your book.
Thank
And
you.
now you can stream this on your website once you get it
Hmm.
up. But is there
Hmm.
anything else as we close that you would like to share with your listeners? Or I'm sorry, with your, well, I'm so used to doing radio now and
Yeah.
television. It's so different. Social media with your followers or people who are streaming and joining us on Facebook or LinkedIn.
Right. Well, I am on Twitter at Banks Priscilla, and I have my Facebook page, Priscilla Flint Banks. Like me or visit me. Also, if you go to YouTube and put in People Power with Priscilla, you'll be able to see all my shows. I've been on Boston Praise Radio as a broadcaster since 2015. So that's a
Wow.
yeah, yeah. So
Wow.
yeah, and purchase my book. You can get it on Amazon, or if you live in the Boston area, you call me, and I gladly deliver it to you. But yeah,
Absolutely.
I don't have my Facebook. I mean my website up back up yet, but it's coming. All this stuff, with all the social media and me and my young interns, we're gonna really do some things in the city. So I'm excited. I'm excited about what God's doing in my life, and I'm just excited for your new venture. And
Thank you. Thank you.
yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Thank you so much, Priscilla. And I want to thank you again for being on the show. And your book is just amazing. And it's not a real thick novel, but it seems
Mm-mm.
like it reads like one. And it's just something, sit back and sip some tea or coffee and check it
Yeah.
out. I look back and wonder how I got over a fabulous book, a brilliant author. Thank you, Priscilla, for being a part
Thank
of my
you.
first streaming
Yes,
TV
thank you.
show. Thank
And
you.
we'll talk soon.
Yes, absolutely. Take
Okay.
care. And I
You
just want
too.
to mention to the folks who are on, we're going to have, I forgot to mention that we are going to have next up this coming Thursday, we're going to have a gentleman who, I'm sorry, we're going to have Carissa Hubbard, who is going to be our next author. So you don't want to miss it. So again, let me thank my guest, my author, and I'll see you soon. Take care.
Yes. God bless. Thank
God
you.
bless. Bye
Bye
bye.
bye.